Do you realize this class is almost over? It's Wednesday morning, the beginning of week 7. This is an 8-week course, so that means we're knocking on the door of the exit of the class. Yeah, that didn't come out kind of the way I was thinking in my head. But you get the idea. We're almost to the end. And this week, we're going to look at two kind of interesting areas of interpersonal communication. One of them's got the weirdest title. It's called Communication Climate. It makes it sound like we're talking about the weather, right? And in a way, we kind of are. It's the weather around us, that black cloud that sometimes follow us, or the white cloud that's over our heads. It's the environment that we create by our presence. Remember, we talked about self-perception and how we feel like we project ourselves. That creates an environment, and we all have one. And so you probably can think of a person who, when they walk in the room, you just go, oh, God, no, not this person. They drain all the energy out of it. It's that expectation. It's that environment around them that you know is going to be there. Other people walk in the room and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. It'll get great now because they're always the life of the party. That kind of communication climate and how we come to create an expectation around ourselves, and we have an expectation around others based on how we communicate, and it can have some pretty deep impacts. And I'll put up it's a TED Talk about, it's actually about the other subject, managing conflict, which is another area. Of course, nobody has any conflict, right? We don't have conflict. We don't really need to look at it, but it's in the book, so we'll look at it. Now, we have a lot of conflict in life, and the TED Talk is actually about the resolution of, it's called the resolution of conflict, but in it, the examples that are used show you the communication climate and how one climate creates one kind of an end result. And just by being conscious, being aware of the climate that we have around us, and consciously trying to make it a positive climate, it changes the whole environment in almost exactly the same scenario in two different stories. And you're like, wow, I totally get it. It's an eye-opener kind of a discussion. And I will put that up this week. But communication climate goes with us everywhere. It's the expectation everybody has. Conflict, we always have conflict. And when we look at the lifespan of a relationship, conflict really comes into play. And a lot of times it's what causes us to go down that lifespan slope on the other side, where it results in termination, because not all of them wind up in that way, right? But conflict can be dealt with in a positive way, and it's amazing. There's a very simple process, and I will put a quick tip up on this one. There's a very simple process of how to resolve conflict. It's what negotiators use. Third-party negotiators especially will come in to where there's a conflict between two parties. They can't reach a resolution, and a conflict negotiator will come in and follow this set pattern, and it almost always works to resolve conflict. And we all have certain ways of dealing with conflict or managing conflict that we fall back on. Sometimes there are healthy ways of fixing it, sometimes they're not. And you'll become more aware of what your fallback is. But this particular process almost always leads to both parties winning and being very involved and dedicated to the resolution of the conflict. So there is a process. I've used it a number of times, and it works really well. So we'll look at those two things. As far as assignments are concerned, you'll have the two quizzes, of course. You'll have reflection paper 6, and that's all that you're going to turn in. But do continue working on that movie analysis assignment. There are topics even being discussed this week that could fall into some of those examples that you pull from whatever movie you're picking from. So continue working on that. It's a high part of your grades that you're going to turn in at the end of week 8. and that's about it. I will put up quick tips and some other TED Talk stuff that's really related to this and really worth the watch. Otherwise, shoot me an email if you've got questions, or catch me in office hours, and I'll be glad to help you out. I'll talk to you later.